Well, yes, of course, of course. But keep in mind that there are positive and negative dimensions to your society. We want you to understand this. It's very obvious these are there. How do we know this? Because there's positive and negative dimensions to yourself. Oftentimes, because your society wishes to remain cohesive and unified, it will attempt to create a seemingly objective narrative, a unified perspective of what is happening, what is going on, in a sense, what is real. But keep in mind that the collective is not always accurate in terms of what is real, what is genuine, what is factual. And other perspectives, other takes on what is objective, what is real, what is factual, begin to develop within the society that may be counter or contrary to that collective perspective. And in many of these instances, there are accurate factual details to these other perspectives, to these points of view. Ultimately, these 2 points of view, the collective perspective and perhaps the more fringe perspective, need to work together because both contain elements of truth. But your society has allowed your belief systems to segregate you all to such an extent that these two groups don't usually sit down and talk about their ideas and merge their ideas. So instead, there is a seeming battle between these groups, oftentimes because specifically of a difference in how one perceives reality. So if you judge another because of how they perceive reality, oh, they're so fear-based, so they made this choice. Oh, they're so evil, so they made that choice. Oh, they're so lost, so they made this choice. Remember, when you are saying these things in a negative way, in a
Mm.
judgmental way, in a criticizing way, you are revealing your own internal assessments of the self on the deeper levels. Because if you were truly aligned on those deeper levels, you would look at the person making the choice that perhaps you don't prefer or perhaps you don't agree with, believing the thing that perhaps you don't believe or you don't agree with, and you would know immediately why they are doing this. Oh, they believe it benefits them. Oh, this must align with some of their soul themes. Oh, they must be gaining experience from this. Oh, their direction is just as valid as mine. Oh, maybe they know something I don't. Oh, maybe I know something they don't. And you start to see that there are all of these different overlaps actually between you and these people who seemingly are making contrasting or negative or fear-based decisions. So
Mm.
it's
Thank
important.
you.
Yes, you're welcome. You're welcome. This type of allowance is going to be incredibly important as you move forward. Because remember, the more you hold on to these assessments of people, places, and things, the more you hold on to judgments or beliefs or perspectives that lock one into place. This person's that kind of person. This place is that kind of place. The more that this is done, the more limitation is created within the experience. The more the experience becomes so rigidly defined that it's almost as if it doesn't have breathing room. So remember, in your perspectives of others, in your perspectives of places, in your perspectives of world events, leave breathing room for neutrality. In your definitions, in your belief systems, related to these things, leave a neutral space. So the energy related to that subject matter can breathe, so positivity can be introduced, and then a more positive change can take place. Because remember, things are accelerating. So your labels, the definitions, the beliefs you use will also accelerate. The effects that are created will increase, will densify. So be aware of those beliefs and definitions, especially as you move forward. This is not just a message for you, it is a message for the collective because the human mind loves to label. It's how you differentiate things and make sense of things. So there's nothing wrong with labeling, it's important, helps you tell the difference between different phenomena, but how you label is of crucial importance. And that doesn't mean don't deny negativity. If you see negativity, if you see what you would classically call evil action, acknowledge those things are there, but also acknowledge the other dimensions to the phenomena as well. See it in a holistic nature, not just in its negative nature, which is, of course, the most obvious expression of it. but see the neutral dimensions of it, see the positive dimensions of it, and then try to imagine the unknowns related to it, how that negative or evil phenomenon actually plays a role in the grand story of existence. And in that process of exploration, you will gain tremendous perspective, tremendous vantage point.
Um, the other contradiction is the spirituality of people. Uh, it's related, and the seemingly a lot of the dishonest business practices at the same time. So the very people who can enter into a very good spiritual discussion with one can just the next second like charge money they cannot account for, or not pay people when they promise to pay, etc. So I found that another interesting juxtaposition.
Sure,
But
sure. Well, remember, the
mm,
more spiritually oriented you become, the more aware you become of the subtleties of life. Yes. A person who
mm,
is not incredibly spiritual, they're more physically oriented. They don't see the patterns that link different forms of life. They don't necessarily sense the synchronicities. They don't necessarily sense the life force. To them, things are dense, you could say, manifestations. And if it's not a dense manifestation, it is imperceivable. As they become more spiritual, they become more sensitive to the subtleties that cause physical reality to exist, to manifest. The more you penetrate into the subtle dimensions of existence, the more you begin to realize that physical reality is a dream. The more you begin to realize there's not really a death. The more you begin to realize that you're an infinite soul and you'll exist forever, the more you'll begin to realize that ultimately every experience is valid. Every experience, even if it's negative, can be used for a soul's growth and ascension process. Noticing all of these things can make one rather nonchalant about what you would call morality.
oh,
Yes, because if there really is no point to it, yes, if it's just an endless cyclical existence, and none of this is real anyway, what does it matter if I'm ethical or not? What does it matter if I hurt this person or not? They're an indestructible spirit. How could I even really hurt them? It's just an illusion. If I bother
mm,
this person and greatly offend them, well, isn't that just their belief system? Then they co create that version of me in their reality. As you can see, it's very easy to rationalize what you would consider to be dark or destructive behaviors using spirituality. Yes.
mm.
Yes. Can you see that from what we have described?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes.
I see, but
So
they're not afraid of creating karma then.
no, no, not at all. And many of them would say, well, karma will only have an effect upon you if you are psychologically linked to the past or to the future. But if you're existing in the present moment with no past or future, how could there be the experience of karma, which is energy accumulation over time? Doesn't really make any sense, does it? How could I get a bad future life from my actions if all lifetimes exist here and now and that future life's already being lived? Oh, I get to have a life review at the end where I get to see the higher meaning behind all of my actions. Even my negative ones are seen in total clarity, and I get to grow from them just as I do the positive. Oh, sounds pretty equal to me. As you can see, it's very easy to rationalize destructive, narcissistic, self centered behaviors using spiritual principles. You can absolutely do it. The physical ego loves doing it because it acts as justification for it to be able to continue the patterns that it developed along the way of its development. So, spirituality without love, spirituality without deep, heartfelt connection to the world around you can produce a type of spirituality that is not necessarily evil objectively in nature, but is in many ways, and we're going to use your own common terms here, it creates a spirituality that's rather reptilian in nature. It's like a cold blooded spirituality. It's not a false spirituality, but it's not based on love. So it sort of misses the mark. It may be strong in other areas. There may be genuine aspects to it that are positive, that are important, that are powerful. but it is guided by a motivation that does not really emphasize that unity that exists, that is a web of love linking you and all beings. So many of these people have, let's just say, not had that heart opening connection. That heart opening power, this was the point of Christ. Remember that in those times, you had religious leaders that had extreme positions of power, extreme influence in society, many of them very spiritually evolved, but acted in ways where they were incredibly selfish. And they were
Mm.
oftentimes described as Pharisees, referred to by Christ as broods of vipers, is how he described these people. These are spiritually evolved people that did not evolve through love. Christ represents that evolution through love, treating others as you wish to be treated, knowing that the other person ultimately is an extension of you. So any mistreatment of them is really a mistreatment of the self, which also means some of these people you're describing, it is also likely they cheat themselves. They violate themselves. They betray themselves in certain ways. So they do the same thing to others. Does this make sense?
Yeah, deeply.